Me always with the microphone muted. So thank you everybody for joining the live stream again. Two streams in a row, 2 days in a row. What? Yes, this is me. Um, so I'm gonna wait for a couple more people to come in before we start with the stories that I had planned. But first, I might as well just let you guys know a couple updates or a couple technical improvements from the last live stream. Um, so first of all, I said I was gonna come alive at 10. I was maybe like a couple minutes late, but when I started the live stream, I started it. I'm sitting there waiting for people to come in. Zero viewers. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So 10 minutes into the stream, I realized that the stream was private, so literally nobody could see it. So here we are. I started the live stream over again. And some of the technical improvements, if you noticed, I made some changes to the lighting because it looked like I was recording from a goddamn cave last night. Looked like I had Noam Chomsky setting up my lighting arrangement. So I added some more lights. It looks better to me. You guys let me know what you think in the chat. Also with the audio, so there was a very weird sound to the audio over the last couple of days, and it turned out that my gain was turned all the way up on the microphone, and that kind of distorts the sound. And I turned it down, so the audio should be smoother now. And what else? What's happening? What else do I want to talk to you all about before I start? Anybody have anything? Any questions? Any comments? Anything you want to add? Um, by the way, it is hot as hell because there's an AC in the room, the hotel room I'm recording from, but it's so loud that it would probably be very distracting if I if I had it on during the live stream. So I just turn it off, and so you add that with the fact that I have basically every light in this side on this side of Florida on. It gets real hot real quick in here. So yeah, I'm gonna get me a little bit of water before we start. Uh, Let me see. All right, we have 20 viewers in. Gonna let a couple more people come in before I start. We have three stories that we're going to talk about today. The first one is about Russiagate, and it's so funny. It's not funny. It's kind of gross. The way that the media harped away on this story endlessly, relentlessly, when it served their narrative and when it was a huge Trump bad story, that's all anybody wanted to talk about. But after it became clear that it was a bunch of bullshit, the like around the time the Mueller investigation ended, suddenly it's no longer newsworthy. And then the main theme of Russiagate is now how this was all just an elaborate fucking hoax set up by the Democrats to distract from the fact that they lost to a fucking circus clown in what should have been a layup election. So now we have news that Hillary Clinton's campaign lawyer, who's directly involved and directly implicated in the whole Russiagate and the origins of Russiagate, he's been indicted for lying to the FBI. So that's a cool story to talk about. I'm going to get into that. That'll be the first story to talk about. Next story I'm going to talk about is this interview that Jimmy Dore did with Robert Malone, Dr. Robert Malone, who is the person who discovered the mRNA vaccine technology. He's a doctor, he's an immunologist, and he created the mRNA vaccine technology, decades ago. The same technology that's been used in the recent COVID vaccines. And he's been a critic of the vaccine rollout and the vaccine program uh, this entire time, but his voice is not, and his opinions on this, his take on this, is mysteriously left out of any dialogue around the vaccine, around our response to COVID, which is bizarre to say the least. So he did a great interview with Jimmy Dore a while ago. It was just posted on his channel a couple of days ago. It was over an hour long interview. I highly recommend everybody watch it after this live stream. I'm actually gonna there's more stuff that I want to break down, so I'm gonna do that in a separate video. But there were a couple things that clips that I want to show you in this stream that I'm gonna do. That'll be the second story I talk about. Also, Franco from Frank Analysis interviewed Dr. Robert Malone a while ago. So you guys should check that out too. And then the last story I want to talk about is that I'm sorry. The last thing I want to talk about is there was basically a coup here in the United States after the whole January 6th riot. The military, the chief of I don't know why I'm blanking on his title, General Milley, the chief of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, he basically unilaterally decided that he's in charge of the U.S. military after the riots on January 6th. And he made a very huge decision, overrode Trump on a very huge decision, which is scandalous to say the least. So I'm going to get into that. I might as well start now. All right, so the first story I'm going to talk about is Hillary Clinton's campaign lawyer being indicted. And I couldn't even say the further implosion of Russiagate. So many of you have followed the Russiagate story. The allegation that Donald Trump he won the presidency, the election was stolen by the Russians, and they stole it, they cheated Hillary Clinton, and they installed Donald Trump as their puppet president so that they can control the United States. That was the conspiracy theory that was being propagated by the mainstream media, by every elite in this country, by the entire Democratic Party and the Democratic apparatus. They literally went balls deep with this conspiracy theory, and there was no end to it. It was the number one topic. I swear to fucking God. So they would do they would talk about it all day, literally every day, for like 3 years. The first 3 years of Donald Trump's presidency, this was all they would talk about. And that's not an exaggeration. The way that they break up the I guess like the way that stories are presented are in like hour blocks. So, and there's usually different hosts on these mainstream news channels like CNN or MSNBC who take over for each hour. They would talk about any made up story, any minor details in the Mueller investigation, anything that Trump said that might have been slightly friendly to Russia. They would talk about it nonstop for hours on end, all day, every day. It was the main story. You would think everything was going right in this country except for the fact that Donald Trump was installed by the Russians, if all you were listening to was mainstream media. And they did it to the detriment of all of the most important issues that were going on in the country at the time. Of course, we were always in a healthcare crisis in the country before COVID. 500,000 people going bankrupt every year because they can't afford their medical bills. Thousands of people dying unnecessarily. 60,000 people dying unnecessarily because they can't afford basic healthcare in this country. All of those things were happening in this country when Donald Trump was president. Of course, the wealth inequality, like 70% of the country was living paycheck to paycheck, can't afford a $700 emergency. Uh, all of those things were real. All those things were happening um, while they were covering Russiagate endlessly. But it was an amazing feat, and this is a long-winded lead up, but it was an amazing feat, and it was without a doubt the biggest propaganda campaign imposed on the American public since the lead up to the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War. The way that the media and politicians uniformly decided to manufacture consent to drive this narrative of Trump is some type of Russian asset or whatever, despite all the contravening evidence, despite all the contradictory evidence, despite the fact that his policies towards Russia were more hawkish and more antagonistic than even the Obama administration was. Despite all of that, they were hell bent on driving home this narrative that Donald Trump is some type of puppet of Russia, puppet of Vladimir Putin, and it was extremely bizarre. It was noteworthy, and it that moment in history should never be forgotten at just how much they were willing to manufacture consent among the public for their own political purposes. And so now, of course, the Mueller investigation came up with fucking nothing. There was no proof that Donald Trump was installed by the Russians because it didn't fucking happen. And every step of the way, we just keep finding more information that disproves that. Even towards the beginning of it, if you really were paying attention, there was no evidence. Nobody provided any evidence that it was true that Donald Trump, that the Russians stole the elections or to install Donald Trump, and it was based off of innuendo and jumping to conclusions and blowing things out of context and blowing things out of proportion to fit their narrative. And it where it came from, the root of all of this is so disconnected from where this story spun out of the 3 years, 4 years that it was going on endlessly. Because originally the claim was two things that the Russians did to install Donald Trump: that they hacked the DNC servers and they gave the DNC's emails and the Clinton campaign's emails to WikiLeaks, who then published them. And those emails exposed damning corruption on behalf of the Clintons and the Democratic Party. That was they claimed it was the Russians. Zero evidence for that. Still to this day, there is no evidence to back up that claim. But they said it anyway, and they repeated it endlessly for years on mainstream media. Fake fucking news. You want to talk about fake news? That was fake news. And then also the other aspect that they intentionally, 100% on purpose, blew out of proportion was this idea that there were some Russian state hackers who hacked the election rolls or the voter rolls in certain states in the country, and they got access to voter data. And they intentionally left out all the context in that and were just repeated, Russians hacked the elections. So now people were just conflating the DNC hack with the Russians, which there was no evidence of. And they were conflating the hack of the voter rolls with hacking the election. And when you don't provide any context and you just say that to people, they think that they literally hacked the elections and stole, they literally changed the votes so that Donald Trump would win. And so the media and the Democrats intentionally let that be the narrative to perpetrate among the public, knowing damn well that when they looked at what happened, what they got from the hack, all it was basically they got some voter information. They got some information on voters across in different states. So they got names and addresses and dates of births and things like that. Had nothing to do with manipulating the election. But that's what they were pretending happened. And they were pretending like that was why Donald Trump won, as opposed to Hillary Clinton just being a shit candidate who ran a shit campaign and lost to a circus clown. And so clearly now it's not even up for debate how bullshit that whole story was. And so, knowing that there was nothing there was no there, after all the hysteria, after all the fear mongering, after all the hyperventilating. So there needs to be answers here. And yes, there's a lot going on. Economic crisis, COVID, but there needs to be answers for the way that the media handled that, and the way that the Democratic Party handled that, and the way that they prioritized that over everything else in the country, and it was a completely bullshit story. And so you have to look at the origins of Russiagate. Where did this all come from? And so before Trump left office, after the Mueller investigation, it probably might have been towards the end of the Mueller investigation, he appointed a special counsel, special investigator to investigate the origins of the Russiagate scandal. And I believe his name is John Durham. I know his last name is Durham. I believe his first name is John. And so he was in charge of the investigation. And so he found several things out throughout the course of his investigation. One of the big findings was that emails from or memos from the CIA director at the time, John Brennan, who said that the narrative of the Russians stole the elections, Russian hacked the elections to install Donald Trump, that wasn't based off any evidence. It wasn't based off of some legit findings, investigations, or anything like that. This was a story that was floated from people in the Hillary Clinton campaign so that they can deflect and attention away from the WikiLeaks that exposed their corruptions. That's not me saying it. That was the CIA director's own memos saying that. So he knew this was all bullshit when he launched all of these investigations and was coordinating with the FBI to investigate the Trump campaign and the Trump administration. All this. He knew it was all bullshit, but he did it anyway, and he misled the public. And as a matter of fact, John Brennan went on to become the chief national security analyst at NBC, one of the major networks in the country. So this fucking liar and fraud was out there lying to the public from the biggest platform you can imagine, and lying and pretending as if the Russians like literally hacked stole the election and changed votes and installed Donald Trump to be president, knowing it was a fucking lie. So that was one of the major things that were revealed by the Durham investigation. And I can't even begin to get into all the ways that the Russiagate story was debunked. But so that was one of the major findings. But now there's even arguably even it confirms that part of the story, and which is what I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, that now the Hillary Clinton's campaign lawyer from I believe the law firm's Perkins and Coy, who was representing her campaign during the election, and he was also representing Fusion GPS, and his law firm was responsible for introducing the Steele dossier into the investigation, and which was the jumpstart of all of these the special counsel investigations into Donald Trump and all these things. So the Hillary Clinton's attorney has now been indicted for lying to the FBI because he provided false information about Trump and some connection to the Russians between through this bank called Alpha Bank. So he went to the FBI, gave them some type of like a USB drive or whatever with false documents. The FBI investigated his claims of some type of financial connection between Trump and the Russians, and they found nothing. So, and then he continued to tell the story to FBI agents and members of Congress, lying, pushing the Steele dossier and pushing this information about the Alpha Bank connection, and that's what the indictment is specifically about. This his lies about the Alpha Bank connection, and so this is damning. This is damning. In any sane world, the media who took this man's word as gospel and the word of the Hillary Clinton campaign and the Steele dossier, which was basically made up opposition research. It wasn't even real opposition research. The Steele dossier has been debunked 800 ways to Sunday. But the people who introduced this and started these years-long congressional investigations, FBI investigations, special counsel investigations from the Department of Justice. Now he's been indicted for lying. And everybody who pushed this bullshit has a giant fucking egg on their face, and they're completely unrepentant, and they're acting as if they didn't believe this horse shit without verifying it and pushing it to their own audience. So I spent way too long on the story anyway, as one always does, talking about Russiagate, because there's so much it's such a nuanced story. There's so many layers to it, and it's important because, like I said, this was a mass delusion that they imposed on the public. Mass delusion, mass hysteria, brainwashing the public. It was literally the biggest effort to manufacture consent among the public since the Iraq War and the lies and deceptions that they pushed on the public back then. So this is incredibly damning on the part of Hillary Clinton campaign. Do I think anything's going to come of it? Of course not. Hillary Clinton herself should have been indicted several times over for shit that she did. But nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to come of it. But it's just noteworthy that just know these people are fucking liars. Mainstream media, they're fucking liars. The Democratic Party and all these Democratic operatives, they're all fucking liars. And that's not to say that the Republicans are any better either. They're all fucking liars. So all these politicians, all these political operatives are fucking liars, and have no interest in serving the public at all. So that's enough for that story. Let me get to the chat. Austin B says, "Shit libs. The Russians stole the elections from Hillary Clinton." Yes, and conservatives, the Democrats stole the election from Trump. Yeah, I mean, and the funny part about it is they both rig elections. So, and that was another part that made me just rang just like a bunch of hypocrisy throughout the whole thing. Democrats, in the same fucking election, Democrats were caught red-handed rigging the primary against Bernie Sanders and the left, cheating them in broad fucking daylight. Their own emails confirmed it. Donna Brazile, the vice chair of the Democratic Party, was leaking Hillary Clinton debate questions before the debate. They were coordinating with the media to prop up Hillary Clinton and smear Bernie Sanders. So, like, they were the ones who rigged elections. Kicking people off of the voter rolls and purging voter rolls, hundreds of thousands of people showing up to vote, their names on the voter rolls with the closed primaries and all those things. So they were the ones who rigged elections, and now they're going to cry fucking crocodile tears over some made-up story. It wasn't even real, some made-up fucking story that Trump stole the election. So let me get to any other chats. I see Sinead. I know I mispronounced your name, but you know who you are. Been following the channel. Honestly, I think you've been subscribed before I even had 100 subscribers. Maybe like 200 subscribers. So one of my longest subscribers, and I very much appreciate her always showing up and supporting. DOG says, then the FBI. Oh, I guess there was a message before that. He says, then the FBI lied, said this has nothing to do with the Steele dossier, didn't the FBI like lie like 14 times to the Pfizer court? Yes, they all fucking lied they lied to the Pfizer court to get the warrants to tap the phones of the Trump campaign, all this stuff. They're all a bunch of fucking liars, and the way that they abuse the Pfizer court is also a scandal and something I want to talk about more, because like all these things are just going to get buried in history and everybody's going to pretend like the shit never happened, and it is really gross to see. um I got a donation on PayPal, and I think there was a message attached to it. Give me 1 second, I'll read that for everybody on the live stream if I can get my shit to work. So, coming up next, we're going to get into that Jimmy Dore story. So, if that's what y'all were waiting for, it's coming up in maybe like 2 minutes. Marta Krauksick, $5 donation through PayPal, says great show, thank you. And if anybody wants to donate, if anybody wants to have a comment read, if you definitely want your comment read, you can send a donation through PayPal. Also, the link to Streamlabs is it's a pinned comment in the chat. So if you click that link, go to Streamlab, you can send a tip with a note. It'll pop up on the screen and I'll read it for everybody. And I'll respond to your comments. And also, of course, in between stories, I'll be reading the live chat to interact with the audience. And let me get to this next story. But first, I'm going to try to promote the stream on Twitter so I can get more people in the stream, because this is a very important story that I want to talk about. So if you guys can share the stream on your social media and get some people into the stream, that would be great. I very much appreciate it. Because Jimmy Dore had on somebody who is undoubtedly an expert in immunization and vaccines. In fact, he's the person who created the mRNA vaccine technology. And he has been very critical of the vaccine rollout, of the response from the government to the pandemic, and a lot of what's been going on with the vaccine. He's been very critical, but for some reason, his voice is and his opinion on this, and any opinion that's similar to his, has been left out of any discourse around the vaccine. And the only thing you're going to hear is just nonstop pro-vaccine propaganda and demonizing anybody who even asks questions about it. So this is an important story. So if you guys can share the stream and get people into the stream, give me 1 second, and I'm going to send that tweet out. All right, so let me see if anybody came in the chat. Oh, Marta K is fine. Okay, thank you. And thank you again for the donation on PayPal. All right, so I'm going to get into that Jim Dore thing. So also, I figured out the audio issue, because if you guys notice, I played a clip yesterday towards the end of the live stream, and it was the audio was terrible. There's a bunch of echo. I figured it out. It should be better. But as always, when I play the clip, you guys let me know how it's working in the chat, and I'll see if I can do anything to fix it. So now let's get into this next story. So we just talked about Russiagate and the mass deception that the mainstream media and the political elites just imposed on the public for like 3 years straight, and just how they were willing to lie on purpose to manufacture consent to advance their political agenda. And how Russiagate really broke the brains of a lot of people, even people that you and I would respect, and made them lose their fucking minds, lose any semblance of common sense. And the same thing is sort of happening with COVID right now. And people are being so wildly anti-science and authoritarian. It's fucking bizarre. And like I said, people that I whose opinion and takes and political analysis I normally respect, they just shut their brain off when it comes to this vaccine. And anybody who has any questions is demonized. Anybody who hasn't gotten the vaccine or is hesitant to get the vaccine, demonized. And it's bizarre because and while they're doing it, they're pretending, proclaiming that they're pro science, and like it's a cult of people pretending to be pro science but doing the exact opposite. In science, it's skepticism and questioning the official narrative and questioning the status quo is welcomed because that's how you make advancements. That's how you improve things. But when it comes to this vaccine, it's like, okay, it was made, everybody, here you go. Nobody ask any questions, and if you do, you're a fucking bad guy. And you can't question the efficacy of the vaccines, how well they work. You can't question whether or not this 100% commitment to get everybody vaccinated is the best strategy to contain the virus and get a hold of this pandemic. You can't question anything. Once the vaccine was created, rushed vaccine by sketchy ass pharmaceutical companies. Once it was created and being pushed by public health institutions that have burned their credibility and trust among the public. Once all that was happening, once it's done and now it's being distributed, nobody's allowed to ask any questions. It's fucking bizarre, and it's notable that through all the discourse on the vaccine, there is no pushback to the official narrative anywhere in the mainstream. And there are no dissenting opinions. And it is so bizarre. Like I said, it's just like some real cultish herd mentality going on right now. So Jimmy Dore had on somebody to provide a counter argument, and arguably one of the best guests you can have on this, the person who created the mRNA vaccine technology decades ago. Now this technology is being used in the COVID vaccine. And so this person's been skeptical, like I said earlier. And so there were so many things that I want to talk about in that over hour long interview. I'm gonna have to break it down in another video at another time. But for right now, there are two clips that I want to show you. They're all part of the same answer. I just clipped it because there was something that there are things that I want to address in the first part, and then there were separate things that I want to address in the second part. So these are the things that I'm gonna break down in this segment, and he has great insight throughout the entire interview. And like I said, once I'm done, you guys should all check out the interview for yourself. So I'm gonna play the first clip for you guys, and then I'm gonna come back and break it down. And again, let me know if there's anything going on with the audio, if there's any issues with the video being played. So excuse me 1 second, because I actually have to do something so I can hear it myself. So I'm gonna play you the first clip, and then I'm gonna come back and break it down for you all.
Now, there are those in the New York Times, the Washington Post, and others where you've seen op-eds. And for instance, Atlantic Monthly, my a journal that I'm not very happy with right now because of their attacking me. But you've seen these articles in the headlines of the Toronto Star, basically saying that it's acceptable to withhold medical care from those who have not taken vaccine.
What?
I strongly object to this. Okay. Um, so there is a logic that if you don't accept vaccine, uh, you really don't deserve to be treated on the same basis as somebody who did if you come into the hospital. Okay. And that is a slippery slope.
Whew.
We go from there. So, what's the next thing? Well, let's see. The people that are at highest risk are obese. Well, obesity is something that you could control. That's your fault. You had too many McFries and too much sugary Coca-Cola. And so it's your fault that you're obese and at high risk for COVID. So maybe we shouldn't treat you. Maybe we shouldn't treat you if you smoked. It goes on and on and on. How deep is that hole? I strongly object to that kind of logic, but it's being promoted both across the United States in high-profile, papers of record, and in Canada, across Canada, like the Toronto Star.
All right, so oops, get rid of that for you. So, I mean, this is something that I've talked about a little bit before, but it's good to get a doctor's perspective on this because this is fucking madness. What's going on? And it's not even like these are uh, uh like fringe opinions. I've seen this being propagated all throughout the mainstream. I've seen basically every host on CNN repeat this. Of course, Jimmy Kimmel, he made a joke about it that went viral, and I've seen medical professionals, I've seen doctors go on CNN and say that shit. So it is fucking bizarre to me that there will ever be some type of this type of opinion that we're gonna pick and choose who gets medical treatment in the middle of a fucking emergency. That is again, and that is so anti-science. Like all of these things that they're doing, it's just arbitrary and wildly anti-science and unethical on top of it all. Because, like he said there, where do you draw the line? Because okay, unvaccinated people, you're saying that because they chose not to get the vaccine, if they get COVID, if they get sick, then now that's all on them. So they can go and die in a corner. Oh shit, my laptop's about to die. Why do I keep doing this to myself? Um All right, we back, baby. Um Yeah, so if they chose not to get the vaccine, so now it's their fault if they get sick and they get hospitalized. So therefore, they deserve to die because of it. That is fucking crazy. That is crazy to me. And like you said, where do you draw the line? Because it's not just unvaccinated people. That's not the only choice that people make that puts them at high risk of ending up in the hospital with COVID. Like you said, it's the a lot of the times the people who have the worst a response to it are people who are unhealthy, people who are overweight, people who don't have a healthy diet. So, are you meaning to tell me, okay, so now if we're picking and choosing, what's to stop them from being denied medical treatment if this is the way that you all want to go? There and what about people who do other risky things and end up needing medical treatment? So is if the hospitals are full, you're gonna tell me, oh, now it's we're gonna it's just we're gonna pick and choose who we want to save. Not even and triage is one thing, but if you're gonna tell me that the way that you triage is not based on who you think needs the most help and who you think can survive with the medical intervention, No. You're gonna just make the decision based off of decisions, personal decisions that you've made in your life, and that's gonna determine whether or not you get the treatment that you need to survive. That is fucking crazy. That is crazy to me. And like I said, this isn't it isn't a fringe opinion. This is being propagated, and this mindset, this opinion is being drilled into the American public. They're manufacturing consent to among the public to make it seem like this is an acceptable opinion to have for anybody to have, much less elites and people with influential people with power. So it is crazy to me. It is gross. It's so wildly unacceptable that people are taking this take. And like I keep trying to mention, the tact from the government and the institutions right now is to shift blame from themselves for their shit handling of the pandemic. And they want to put all the blame onto regular people. And they want you to blame your neighbors. They want you to blame people who disagree with you politically. And they want to demonize them and make it as if the reason why our healthcare system is failing right now and it's falling apart, it's because of them. It's because of the choices that they made. And it's so convenient that the people with the most power, they've been absolved of all responsibility. And I have never once heard anybody in mainstream media, anybody in the mainstream, any elites, take responsibility for hospitals being full and put that on the politicians. You know, if we built more hospitals instead of prisons, there would be more hospitals. So the chances of hospitals being full and overrun would be a lot less. And if the politicians haven't let hundreds of hospitals close over the last 10, 20 years for the profits of their corporate donors, then there would be a lot more hospitals and a lot more hospital beds. If we had a universal college and people didn't have to worry about going into debt or even coming up with the money to afford the education to get into the medical profession, if that wasn't a consideration at all, we would have way more nurses and doctors in this country. That is undoubted. So again, none of that is ever part of the conversation about hospitals being full, about hospitals being overrun. Again, they just want to divide people and put the blame on us as if we're responsible for everything that's going on right now. And that couldn't be further from the fucking truth. So I have another clip to show you all from that interview. And like I said, this is part of the same answer, but I just cut it because I really wanted to respond to that part. And then now at this point, this clip is a little bit longer. It's about 4 minutes long, but it was also very important and a lot of great information that I want to break down there. So give me 1 second, I'll get that ready for you all.
So you ask about the ethics. I strongly object to mandatory vaccination for multiple reasons. I believe it's not ethical, and it's also not good medical practice from the standpoint of a virologist and vaccinologist. What we're doing by excessively using vaccine inappropriately for people who don't really need it is that we're driving the virus to be able to escape through evolutionary selection the benefits of the vaccine. Now, we all understand how this works intuitively because most of us are aware that the agricultural practice in feedlots and other places of medicating or chicken houses, of medicating poultry and livestock indiscriminately with antibiotics leads to antibiotic-resistant superbugs that then turn around and attack us, okay? It's the same basic logic. Overuse of vaccines will drive the development of viruses that are able to evade vaccination. Now, who cares? Because we know that natural infection provides broader, longer lasting, and up to 20-fold more effective immune response in terms of preventing reinfection than vaccine does. So, if the vaccine is no longer effective, why should I care? Because I'll just get natural infection and that'll be better in the end, anyhow. The answer is that we do have people in our population that are at high risk. The risk, if you catch this virus and you're elderly and have significant other comorbidities like pre-existing heart conditions, obesity, or other characteristics, your risk is quite high. It can range up to 50% probability of death depending on your pre-existing conditions. And the people that will suffer from this naive, inappropriate policy of global universal forced vaccination when the potent virus escape mutants develop is going to be those people that are at high risk, the people that most need vaccine. So what we're risk doing is destroying the one really effective weapon that we have. It's already happening. The effectiveness of the vaccine is dropping quite rapidly because of the evolution of the virus to escape it. This is one of the lessons coming out of Israel and the UK, is that high levels of vaccination are associated with escape mutants. Those escape mutants are able to infect even the vaccinated. The vaccinated do shed virus and replicate virus at levels at least that of those that are unvaccinated and maybe higher. They still do get disease, although maybe less disease. And in some ways that might be worse because that means the vaccinated that do have breakthrough infections are walking around feeling relatively healthy and yet producing and shedding just as much virus as the people that have received vaccine. And so we have a word for that. We call it super spreaders. So this is just the whole policy is poorly thought out, and so poorly thought out that you're left with wondering, are these people just not very aware and experienced? Is this incompetence? Or is this the consequence of the pressure of the pharmaceutical industry on the people making decisions? And I'm not those people. I can't get in their heads. I don't know what's going on. But there are a lot of signs that we're seeing what the term is regulatory capture. That really doesn't even cover what we're talking about. Let's say undue influence of the pharmaceutical industry on the entire public health enterprise decision-making process. Because you either are left saying these people are grossly incompetent or their decisions are being inappropriately influenced. It's hard for me to come up with other explanations.
Oops, mic was muted. All right, so that was another great clip from that interview. And so I get into before I break down my thoughts on that, let me just make it clear. I'm not saying, oh, everybody, this man is 100% correct. Don't listen to anybody else but this man. But the explicit reason why I'm showing this, more than anything else, is because there has been no no dissenting opinion has been allowed. And I want people to hear other opinions other than this just 100% pro-vaccine propaganda coming from every corner of the media right now, in every corner of politics. So like I said, I want people to hear the dissenting opinions, and out of all dissenting opinions, and out of all places to get dissenting opinions, I think Dr. Robert Malone is a great source. So now let me get to some of the points that he made there about the vaccine not being very effective, and it's people still being able to spread the virus, catch the virus, and spread it with the vaccine at unacceptably high rates. And then he makes the argument that through doing that, and these, in fact, the people who are vaccinated may have become super spreaders because they, especially with the newest strains, they get the vaccine and they aren't taking any precautions anymore. In part because of the way that Biden and the government has instructed people to act after they get vaccinated, pushing this whole, oh, everything's back to normal, everybody just go business as usual. So now people, once they get the vaccine, they aren't taking any precautions, and they're very likely spreading it as much as anybody else who who's unvaccinated. So that's become a problem. And then also, now this, I do need to do more research on this. He talks about this more throughout the interview, and this is another thing that I want to talk about in another video, but I want to do more research on so I can explain it better to you all about how the vaccine, and he talks about how the vaccine was produced, and again, I want to break that down later for you all. But he talks about how it might be the vaccines might be allowing or facilitating the virus to mutate and become even more resistant to vaccines. And so the people who would benefit the most from the vaccine won't be getting the benefits because now everybody's getting vaccinated, and the vaccine has the opportunity to mutate and adapt to the virus. And he uses the example of the way that the factory farms overuse antibiotics on livestock, and it creates antibiotic resistant bacteria that could create dangerous and untreatable diseases among the public. And that is an extremely sound scientific counter argument to the way that these vaccines have been distributed, and the way, in the over focus on distributing the vaccine as if that's going to be the end of the pandemic. So he made great points there. And also he talks about how so, and his thing, what he talks about later on in the interview is how he would choose to respond to the virus. And he would prefer, and he's not even somebody who's like anti-vax. Clearly not. He's an immunologist. He was one of the people who created the mRNA vaccine technology. So he's not anti-vax. But he thinks if he was in charge of our response to the virus, his approach would be a mix of using the vaccine on people who desperately need it, who would be at the highest risk of dying, elderly people, people with pre-existing conditions, give them the vaccine, and anybody who needs it, but also invest heavily in treatments to the virus. And it could be any number of the drugs that have been floated and discussed and used by doctors to try to treat the symptoms of the patients that have COVID. His response would be to use those things in conjunction with the vaccine, so that it's there's a more holistic approach to dealing with the virus, other than just take this untested vaccine. And again, he raised serious questions about the safety of the vaccine, and the now this booster, this push to have everybody take booster shots. He raises questions about it, And in order to deal with the virus in a way that's not completely dependent on these vaccines, these untested, not untested, but not fully tested vaccines, the way to do that is to come up with therapeutics. And it's the most logical response to a pandemic because so many people have been getting sick. So, and especially towards the beginning of earlier in the pandemic when there was no vaccine, why wasn't there this huge push and continued push, especially in other countries that have no access to the vaccine, which they have been doing this. And this is why a lot of countries, poor countries that have no access to the vaccine, have better a better control of the pandemic than we have, is because they've explored other avenues other than just a vaccine and decided to treat the virus as if it's a disease. What can we give to our patients to ameliorate the symptoms so that they don't die and so that it doesn't get worse? And for some reason, when I'll get to the reason in a minute, here in the United States, that discussion is just completely off the table. And he talks about this also, how now the government and the FDA is dictating to physicians how they're supposed to treat their patients. And this is something completely new that has never happened before. Normally, physicians they've spent all these years studying medicine. So when somebody comes to them and they spend all these years perfecting their area of expertise and figuring out what works in their area of expertise. So when people come to them, and if it's something that they haven't explicitly, there isn't an explicit medical response to it, they will have to rely on the information that they've picked up over the years to figure out, come up with a new strategy to treat it. And so many doctors have been doing this and with different medications. And again, this isn't me saying, take these medications, it's definitely going to work, and if you get COVID, you're going to be fine. But that many doctors have been using this to treat their patients. And they found that these things have worked and helped with some of the symptoms. Hydrochloroquine and ivermectin and some other these other medical treatments. But if you bring this up to in anywhere in the mainstream, you're like demonized, you're laughed out of the room. The ivermectin has been one of the most egregious because now everybody's pretending like it's just horse medication, even though it's been medication that's been prescribed to billions of people around the world. And now everybody's acting like, doctors prescribing it. They're pretending like doctors don't prescribe it, and they're pretending like doctors aren't prescribing it specifically to treat COVID. And instead just acting like it's just some horse dewormer and shit like that. So again, it's just wild, rank propaganda to demonize anything other than the vaccine. And so he gets to it towards the end of his answer there, where this just really looks like the pharmaceutical industry who produce these vaccines have so thoroughly bought the government and the media that they're completely driving the conversation in a way that benefits them financially, and everything else be damned. And it's hard to argue with that because that seems like exactly what's happening. Because like I said, the only response from the government towards this virus, to contain this virus, is everybody needs to get a vaccine, and that's the end of the story. No questions, no debates, no looking into other avenues. It's just get the vaccine, and that's the only thing. And he says, I don't know if it's just incompetence or if it's their corruption and financial conflicts of interest. And I'll tell you this, it wildly looks like it's just people looking out for their own self-interest, as it is all the time in this country. And people have decided that that of course the people who have heavily invested in the vaccine, people who stand to make millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars from this vaccine, that they're going to drown out anything else. They're going to be anti-science and drown out anything else that isn't pushing the vaccine and pushing the public to do what makes them the most money. And it's wild to me how so many people on the left who understand how money in politics influences public policy, but for some reason that analysis is completely removed from the equation when it comes to these vaccines. Even though these pharmaceutical companies spend hundreds of millions of dollars to influence politicians, and now, what do you know? All they're pushing is these vaccines that will financially benefit their donors. Even though that's the case, so many people on the left who are normally skeptical of money in politics have absolutely nothing to say about how much these companies have spent to influence politicians to drive policy in a way that benefits them financially. That should be part of the discussion. And nobody talking about the vaccine, nobody who's wildly pro-vaccine and against anything else, nobody is willing to acknowledge that. So this was a great interview that Jimmy Dore did. Arguably one of his most important interviews that he's ever done on his channel. And I will be doing another video where I break down some other parts of it. And so you guys go watch that interview. It was over an hour long. Franco from Frank Analysis also interviewed Dr. Robert Malone. You all should go check that out too. And so let me go check out the chat, see what's happening in the chat. Whew, it is hot as balls in here. They want Danables one says they want lifelong patience, and that's another thing. So with the booster shots, it's becoming clear that that's the direction that they're pushing. It's just more vaccines. Oh, the vaccines aren't working. Well, just take some more. And they're just going to have people keep taking it for 6 months to the end of time indefinitely. And he mentions how this has been working in how they've been doing it in Israel, and how I don't know if it was in the clip that I just played, but in his interview he also mentions that there's more vaccine isn't always better. It isn't always the solution. In fact, if you take the vaccine too much, it can become less effective in combating the virus. So if the fact that the vaccine has become less effective, so they immediately jump to, oh, everybody just needs to take boosters without the adequate studies to suggest that's what would actually work. It's just further proof that this is just a money-making operation, and it has nothing to. I'm not going to say it has nothing to do with science, but science is not what's driving it. Because if science was what was driving their behavior, when the vaccines stop working, or they become less effective as they have been with these new variants, science would dictate, hey, let's take a step back. Maybe we should look at some other things to deal with this virus. Maybe we should do studies to see if boosters would make it more effective. But no, it was just like, let's do more boosters. Let's make more shots and make more money, and let's make this a indefinite thing where we just have this endless gravy train of billions of dollars coming in to produce vaccines. And hey, if it works, if it doesn't, oh well, we're still making money. Plum Drum says FDA was captured a while ago. I believe him on that. Oh, definitely. And the FDA is actually funded by the corporations that they're supposed to be regulating. A huge chunk of their funding comes from pharmaceutical industry. So they basically work at the behest of the pharmaceutical industry while they're supposed to be keeping them on a leash. And clearly, they have not been doing that, and the pharmaceutical industry is running amok. Keenan says, poor Jimmy, a comedian, having to do this because no one will. He should be doing sketches based on proper journalism. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, when so many of the people who are coming up in left new media, they have so much respect for Jimmy Dore because even though yes he's a comedian, he's been forced into this position where he has to do journalism better than every fucking journalist in this country, and it's a fucking shame. But he's doing it, and it isn't just this issue. And honestly, there's a case to be made. He's one of the best journalists in the country right now because it's not just this issue. It's with Julian Assange. It was with Russiagate. It was with exposing the frauds in the so-called progressive movement. He's always ahead of the game. He's always more right than anybody else, and it's easy to make fun of him and laugh at him and he's I don't even know what the claim is anymore that they try to smear Jimmy with. But there's always these attempts to discredit him. But he has more credibility than anybody who's trying to discredit him. So yes, comedian doing a better job at journalism than anybody in fucking journalism is exactly what the fuck is happening. Um J. O. Towner says Jimmy barely scratched the surface. Go to Last American Vagabond site. No, it's not right wing, and watch Taylor Hiddick's interview or the Daily Wrap Up. And I believe the Last American Vagabond had his channel suspended on YouTube because he was one of the first people to talk about how it was very likely that COVID came from a lab leak as opposed to this made up story from fucking Fauci, who was directly implicated in the start of this pandemic. That it came from wild animals and became the most contagious and one of the most deadly viruses out right now, killing millions of people across the world. He was one of the people who raised the alarm that this very likely came from a lab, and because of that, he got his channel taken out from YouTube. I believe, if that's the person that or at least he got his channel suspended or demonetized because of it. Unknown Space Pioneer says to make fun of people seeking treatment, arguably the jab is a pre-treatment, is a height of psychopathy. Zani2 says, I won't trust it until New Zealand, Norway, Jordan, Japan, Zambia, and Ecuador's FDA equivalents all say it's safe, because if all those governments are captured, then we will never know what is safe. I can't argue with that. That's not a bad line to draw in the sand, because look, man, the FDA lets these pharmaceutical companies get away with fucking murder all the time. So I mean, the fact that people are just taking their word at gospel because they said, "Oh no, trust me, these vaccines are safe," even because the people who funded them, who also funded me, tell me it's safe, even though they rushed the trials and they tested it, came up with it and tested it within like 6 months. But trust me, it's cool, guys. I mean, hey, some people are that's all it takes for them to be convinced, and other people need better sources, more trustworthy sources, and I can't blame them. I can't fucking blame them. Ashura says, unapologetic, I'm glad you ditched the Toy Story hat. It made your head look too big. And here, with that nappy here. I'm assuming you're also black, but yes, I mean, I love that hat because that was one of my best friends. She got it for my birthday before she died, but I will admit that hat was too goddamn small, but I do love the hat though. Margin Bull 17 says, "Hey Dontel, did you see Ken Klippenstein dox Fiorina from the Convo Couch when she criticized him over the coverage of Ivermectin?" Yes, I saw that shit and I was so fucking disgusted by it, and I called him a fucking scumbag and a piece of shit on Twitter over it, because Ken Klippenstein is a piece of shit. Let's be real about that. He doxed a journalist because she disagreed with him on a treatment for COVID. He doxed her because he disagreed with him. Whatever opinions you have of Ken Klippenstein, that is so fucking beyond the pale. I'm not into canceling people, but I want nothing to do with anybody. If you're gonna, that's the way you fucking act, and that's not even like this is the first a slimy, sleazy thing Ken Klippenstein did. But that was egregious. He was also uh, um, refuses to acknowledge Julian Assange and making fun of activists who defend Julian Assange. He's just a fucking scumbag. One of the many people cashing in big six-figure checks at the Intercept to do fucking subpar shitty journalism and becoming a shit lib and troll for Democratic Party on Twitter. That's basically all fucking Ken Klippenstein does. And honestly, his journalism, it's not like literally all he does is talk to the fucking feds, people like federal agents who come and give him stories and shit like that, and then he just reports on whatever the fuck they tell him. So he's not like some major like huge life-changing, life-altering journalist. And so when you add that on top of the fact that he's a fucking scumbag, I really just have no interest in Ken Klippenstein anymore at this point. And again, if anybody wants to have their comments pop up on the screen, you can donate on Streamlabs. The link to Streamlabs in the I pinned it to the chat, so it's in the live chat. Also, the links to support the show are in the live chat. Patreon, you can sign up and do monthly subscriptions, and I love all the people who have signed up. There were a couple people who signed up from the last stream on the Patreon. In fact, let me shout them out. Give me 1 second, and I will find that list of people who donated on Patreon or who signed up on Patreon. So Andrew Carlson signed up on Patreon, $10. Who else signed up on Patreon? A couple other people signed up. Oh, Kathy Lloyd signed up for the $20 level on Patreon. Big shout out. And I don't post Patreon exclusive content, but it's just a way to help support the show. So all the people who do sign up and pay those monthly contributions to Patreon, I greatly appreciate that. Also, the link to PayPal is in the description of this video. And if you send a tip on PayPal with a message, I'll also read that and respond to that on the live stream. Hate Madness says, unapologetic, go on Breitbart's website and watch Plandemic Part 2. I think you will understand better what's going on with many of the people on the left. I will have to look at that. I'm not gonna just say, oh, it's Breitbart. I'm not gonna look at it, because what's ended up happening over the last few years is the groupthink has become so fucking thick on the left and in the left media ecosystem that literally the only places that you can find people countering the mainstream narrative is like on some fringe right-wing website sometimes, or just some right-wing websites. Like with the Hunter Biden thing, it was only the New York Post who was going to publish the story, and when they did, social media took the unprecedented step of locking their account and banning. They refused to let people share the fucking link to the story. You couldn't even DM the link to the story. So that's what I'm talking about with the heavy groupthink on the left. So sometimes truthful information is in less than reputable sources at this point. Austin B says, just curious, are you vaccinated? No, I'm not. I'm not like, and this is the thing, it kind of pisses me off about the way people are approaching this whole thing. It's not like I can't be convinced to take it. I just haven't been convinced, and nobody's is making the arguments that are strong enough to convince me that I should take it. And instead of trying to do that, they're just gonna like mock me, demonize me, call me a Trump supporter, and all these other things, and never once address the legit criticisms and hesitancy that I have and the questions that I have and many other people have before they want to inject themselves with something. J.O. Towner says CDC and FDA are staffed entirely by big pharma representatives, not hyperbole. That is true. This fucking the revolving door is also true, and that's another thing. It's convenient how now nobody wants to talk about the revolving door and how the people who run these agencies have come directly from these pharmaceutical corporations, and it's just a big fucking revolving door and money making operation. That's what our regulatory agencies have become in this country. And again, I think that's a relevant context to bring up when we're talking about a vaccine. But again, nobody who's pro-vaccine will ever acknowledge that. Nobody who's pro-vaccine will ever acknowledge that and acknowledge the how that might impact the way that vaccines are being pushed and sold to the public. They will never acknowledge that. Those things don't exist anymore. They said it's true. They said it works. They provided some studies. So if you don't believe them, you're a fucking idiot. Apparently, that's how it works now. Jay O'Tana says the last American vagabond was blocked by YouTube, but he now uses pirate streams. So if you guys want to go check him out, like I said, he was more right than anybody on where the pandemic started. So uh, that's not there's somebody that's one source of information that you should go through. Holy shit, we've been going for an hour 20 minutes and I still have that story to go to. That last story about there was literally a coup that happened in this country and how nobody seemed to give a fuck about it. In fact, some people were cheering it on. DOG says Jordan straight up strawman all leftists in their gripes with Nina, saying the only criticism was that Nina ran as a Dem. Honestly, I'm getting tired of even trying to engage with Jordan because if you guys follow me on Twitter, you know me and Jordan we've been going back and forth, and damn near every time I interact with him, I ratio the fuck out of him because he's so full of shit. And anybody who comes across our interactions see that he's so full of shit that they, even though he has like 20 times more subscribers than me, way more than that to be real with, or followers than me. Maybe not 20 times. Maybe like, actually no, he probably has like 20 times more followers than me on Twitter. He still gets ratioed because they see he's full of shit. And before I kept saying, oh no, he doesn't get it. No, he just doesn't understand. Maybe he just has been introduced to a different perspective. Oh no, I keep giving him all the arguments. I've written detailed articles. And I'm sure he's read my articles. Made detailed points to him on Twitter, and he will never engage with the most substantive critiques of Nina Turner and the rest of the fucking fraud squad, and just constantly like do battle with these straw men that are easy to slap down, but arguments that nobody's making. So it comes off as wildly disingenuous, and honestly, it just looks like he's just being dishonest at this point and pretending like the real substantive arguments aren't there, and instead he wants to engage in these fucking strawmen that he creates, because those are the easiest arguments for him to engage in. So he clearly seems like he's trying to save face and not doesn't want to admit that he was just wrong to keep shoveling people into this fucking to and keep defending these shitty politicians who are selling us out. All right, y'all. Goddamn, it's hot in here. Throat getting dry. We got another story to do. All right. Again, before I get into this next story, links to support the show. If you want your comments to show up in the on the screen, link to Streamlabs. Super chats have been disabled because my channel it has been demonetized on YouTube for over a year. So I get no ad money. YouTube, they actually owe me a check because there's money in my ad account. They will not give me that money. And obviously no super chats either. So if you want your comments, go to Streamlabs. Links it's been pinned in the live chat of this video. PayPal, same thing. Send a tip with a comment. I'll read it on the screen on air. Patreon, all those things. GoFundMe. Oh, also there's a like a fundraiser through my Streamlabs to raise some money so I can get a apartment or something so that I can have a regular place to record, because every time for the last week or so, over the week actually, anytime I do a video, I've been recording from a hotel room. Ever since you've seen the background change, I've been recording from a hotel room. I technically don't have a place to stay, so when I need to record, I have to get a hotel room. That is not cheap. So if you guys can help me with any money to keep getting hotel rooms or to get a place, I would greatly appreciate that. All right, so let's get into this last story. I'm gonna make it quick, y'all. So General Milley, Joint Chief of Staff, I believe, he did interviews with Bob Woodward that were published in Bob Woodward's new book about January 6th and what happened after that. And he basically says that him and like the CIA director, people from the CIA, and Nancy Pelosi, they all got together and they decided that they were going to be making military decisions, and they're basically gonna cut Trump out of the process. And if he says something that if he gives an order that they don't agree with, then they won't listen to him. If you guys know anything about our form of government, that is so wildly far from how it's supposed to actually work, because there's supposed to be civilian oversight over the military for a reason. Because a lot of the time, these military commanders, these generals, have become bloodthirsty maniacs who are pro-war and want war all the fucking time. And that's their one and only gear. Let's do more war. Let's bomb some shit. So it is written in the Constitution from the beginning of this country that there's supposed to be civilian oversight over the military. And so when you have top officials in the military and the national security apparatus, and then in coordination with the Speaker of the House, form a cabal to override the president, that is fucking dangerous. That is dangerous. And it is outrageous. And what they did with that was, so it wasn't like, oh, they just made they came up with this conclusion and nothing came of it. No, they actually overrode Trump on an incredibly important decision that he made. And so Trump and somebody on his staff, or two people on his staff, drafted an order an executive order that Trump signed to have all U.S. troops out of Afghanistan by January 15th, before the end of his administration. They drafted the order. Trump signed the order, and uh, what was it? They drafted the order. They signed the order, and but when General Milley and when they were presented with it, they just refused to do it. So you mean to tell me the president, who has sole authority over and command over the military and sole authority to end a war, literally signed an order to end the longest war in history, in U.S. history, and then the generals who've kept us in that war for over 20 years and responsible for endless death and destruction in Afghanistan and for their own profit and financial benefit and career benefits. When they're presented with the order to get out, they said, fuck it, we're not doing it. And they overrode him. That is fucking crazy. That is crazy. And it shows you who's really running the country. And people talk about the deep state as if it's not a real thing, as if it's like a conspiracy theory. There are very powerful people in the national security apparatus who have been around for decades, and they are running the war machine. And it's like a joke that they make when there's a new president, like, oh yeah, you're just here now, you're running the show now, but we've been here before you, will be here after you, so we're really the ones who dictate U.S. foreign policy. And that couldn't be any more clear than with this the example of what they did to override Trump when he gave the order to get out of Afghanistan. So that is fucking scary. That is literally a coup. That is literally a coup. They went around the Constitution and the way that our government is supposed to be structured, and they unilaterally decided on their own, without consent from the public, that now Milley and the CIA are in charge of the national security apparatus, and the president, who was elected, has absolutely no say. So yeah, you can try to shit on Trump and be like, aha, yeah, they didn't listen to you because you're crazy and all that stuff. But he gave an order, which was actually a good order. But he gave an order, and they, like I said, unilaterally decided that, oh, you're not the president anymore. You have no control over us, and we're gonna do what we want. So, I mean, this is just how they've been functioning for a very long time now. So, it's scary. It's fucking scary. Let me see what's happening in the chat. Mad World Israel says that's a dangerous move. This is why the U.S. military is a threat to the whole. They are a threat to the whole fucking world, because nothing else matters other than advancing their own careers and their own agenda and their own. And it's not like these are principled people. They all are getting rich off of these wars. They all, as soon as they leave public service, go to sit on the boards of these defense contractors and make millions of dollars from these wars. So they are willing to set the world on fire if they can make a buck off of it, if they could advance their career, if they could look like the big tough general who was played a big role in one of our wars. And it's gross. Um, Susan Mercurio says Biden is too demented ever to be the actual president. I know when he was elected that he was ruled by his handlers. Watch Sky News in Australia for honest reporting on Biden. Yeah, I mean, in most cases, the president is just a figurehead, and they really are just acting at the behest of their donors and the experts who they hire and staff their administration with. But Biden is an exceptionally worse president because he is demented and he definitely has is losing it with old age, and sometimes he look like he don't even know what the fuck he talking about, where the fuck he is. It's funny to me how he just doesn't take precedent answers. I mean, he doesn't take questions from the press, and ever, ever, because he can ever defend the shit that he's saying. So he just they prop him up, throw him out in front of a teleprompter, and let him read fucking words that somebody else wrote, and let him go back to the White House so he could take a nap or do whatever the fuck he's doing, and let everybody else run the country. That's literally what they're doing now. Like the president is literally a figurehead at this point. Um, but I do criticize him because at the end of the day, he is the fucking president, and legally he has more power than anybody. And so when they make decisions, it's his role to keep them in check, and to really steer the ship. So when he doesn't do that, that's on him. And he at the end of the day, whatever they decide to do, whatever they choose to do, um, it's his job to really be in charge of things. So when he's not, he gets the fucking blame for it too. Austin B says every time Biden talks, he sounds like he's about to fall asleep, and people have just gotten used to it. Yeah, it's fucking crazy because everybody was fair game to talk about how Trump's fucking demented and how he's crazy and batshit and all that stuff, which is all true. But now when it's Biden, it's lovable Uncle Joe, man. He's just you know how he is. He's demented, and you got to take away his car keys before he hurts himself or fucking drives to fucking Mississippi on the highway and gets lost or some shit. But you know he's still running the country and he's still president, and we're not gonna act like that's not a giant fucking problem. DOG says, I get what Biden feels when I sniff chai tea. That shit sends sparks flying in my brain. Always wakes me up. Hey man, whatever gets you through the day. um, but I I've hit my limit, y'all. So anything y'all want to say, any comments you all have, donations, send them because I'm about to tap out. Uh, Thank you all for showing up, commenting in the live chat. Thank you to Marta K for the donation on through PayPal that I read a while ago, and like I said about the tap out. Honestly, I don't even think I am going to go to sleep right now. There's still some shit that I have to do. I have some videos to post from the live stream I did before. I have some web design work to do. Um, yeah, so those of you who don't know, I'm also a web developer. The link to my website is in the description box of my videos, and it's in the about page of the channel. So yeah, I have some of that stuff to do to try to get some money. Um, but I'm going to check out now. So thank you guys so much for showing up to the stream. I appreciate it. Probably not going to be another stream till next week, but I'm going to have some videos to post in between then. So look out for that. Also have a new logo. I changed it before, like right before I got on the stream. So I'm not sure if you all see that the picture for the channel's changed. Can you comment in the chat and let me know if um it's the same picture that it's always been, or if you see like the new logo as my profile picture on the channel. So I'm actually just gonna wait a little bit because there's a delay on the chat, so I'm gonna wait to see what you guys say. Actually, give me a one if the profile picture for the channel is the same as it's always been. Give me a two if you see something different. Oh, you can't tell what it says? Okay, it's just as unapologetic with like some some lines around it. I'll see if I can do something to make it look bigger. I don't know. Maybe just have to change it to something else. Oh, I see a lot of twos. I didn't know that it would update that fast. That's good. Megan Morales, hey, what's up? She's also been a one of the very OG subscribers. Been watching the show for a very long time. Uh, Appreciate you in the chat. I saw you in the chat. Yesterday was it? I don't even know what day it is anymore. But yeah, Zonita says, Dontel, you said you need to do this in a hotel room to shoot videos, but that seems like the most expensive way to do it. It's like the internet, a 5G phone seems much cheaper than a hotel room. So one, I just bought a bunch of equipment that you guys paid for. Um, so I just got a laptop so I could connect with my microphone and and lights that are all set up right now. Um, I can record from my phone, but that is a downgrade in the quality. And again, like you just gave me money to get equipment for the show, so I want to at least use the equipment. And I also, it would be much harder to live stream on my phone, way harder to live stream on my phone. So if I ended up having to do content on my phone, it would probably be just like regular videos, or maybe like going back to like when I used to just do audio only with just like slideshows as the picture. So Susan Mercurio says it's a black circle with some words. Yeah, that's the new logo. Before it was just a, honestly, the picture that I had for the channel so unprofessional. It was like a selfie I took back in 2017, and I uploaded it. I think that was literally the first profile picture that I had for the channel, and I never changed it since then. So I finally did change it. This is the first time I've changed it. So yeah. Uh, Megan Morales asks, "What do you prefer, live streaming or doing OG audio with stills? I love both, but just curious your thoughts as a creator." So here's the thing. I like doing the videos because I feel like um, there is, I have more of an opportunity to gather my thoughts for each topic that I do, each video that I do. and I feel like I get to be more nuanced that way. But also doing the live streams, I get to interact with you guys, which is great. Um, and yeah, so I don't know. It's a mix. I definitely want to do both of them. I would never just give up and like the old way of doing content and just do live streams. But it's a mix. I really do like talking to you all. Um because I read, like I said, I always read all the comments, and I don't know if you guys believe me when I say it, but I swear to God, I read all the comments. I've read every single comment anybody has ever posted on my YouTube channel. I don't care how long the comment is. I've read literally every single comment. It's just difficult for me to write all those responses, and with the responses on Twitter and stuff like that, it's a lot. So I mean, doing it this way, I get to respond directly to you all. I get to speak to you all, and I get to add as much nuance as I want without writing like a fucking 6 page, 6 paragraph essay in response to some of your comments. So it's a mix, but I definitely, I will say I like the live stream more than I thought I would. Zonisa says, oh, I think you should use the new equipment. And that's another thing. I didn't want y'all to think I was fucking scamming you or something. And I just took the money and ran or some shit. So I did want to show you guys that I am using the equipment. But he says, oh, I think you should use the new equipment, but I know as a startup cost might be tight. So generally want your channel to succeed. A hotel per shoot seems unsustainable. Yeah, it's kind of rough. That's why I'm trying to get money any way I can. Like with the web design and stuff like that, I'm trying to do some work for some clients to get some money that way, to get a place. But also, I'm not just doing, and that's another reason why I'm doing live stream. I could do more content, and I could do more videos that I could cut and release separately. And also, aside from live streams, when I'm in the hotel room, I also record. I try to record regular videos that I can post. So when I am in the hotel room, it's not just like just for the live stream. Like I'm in here the whole day trying to make content. So I try to make it like a content recording thing. So yeah, I at least get some money, like use for my money. So needs to ask, did the equipment not fit at your old location? Oh no, so I was staying at my sister's apartment like for the last year I was making content. I was staying at my sister's apartment. I am no longer staying there, so I don't have a place to stay. So does it fit, would it fit in my old location? It definitely would, but I am not there anymore. uh, I sure asked thoughts on Biden actually sleeping on a diplomat. I mean, if Trump did some shit like that, it would be scandalous. But again, it's Biden, so everybody's pretending like this is the normal thing. The man is literally fucking senile, and everybody's like trying to pretend like the emperor has clothes, but he clearly does not. And if you're falling asleep, I have never fallen asleep in any type of meeting I could think of in my entire fucking life. So you're president of the United States, the most powerful person on the fucking planet, and you're meeting with diplomats from another country, and you're falling asleep. That's not a small fucking thing. I don't think you're able to do the job. That's what I'm gonna say on that. That's what I'm gonna fucking say on that. Hot damn. I keep saying I'm gonna get off the stream, but I'm gonna be all up in the live chat. But for real, y'all, I gotta go. I gotta go. Um, I love y'all. I'm probably not gonna see you all in the live stream until next week. Um, but I'm gonna try to respond to some comments on when you guys leave them on the videos. But until then, it's been real.